or insanity in a cup.
That's my sanity in a cup.
That's your sanity.
It's Friday and it's the late afternoon.
It is Friday, and why are we here? Is
Happy
the big
Friday,
question.
everybody.
It's because it's KTLO, Keep the Learning On Day. And that should say that on every calendar in the universe, by the way.
Yes,
it should say KTLO, Keep the Learning On Day.
Learning on.
And,
Bookmark it. Put it on calendars. Make
I-
time to keep your learning on.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I like
I sent a calendar yesterday to Greg. I made up a calendar that says, spring 2020. And it says Zoom Day, Adobe Connect Day, YouTube Day, instead of the days, because that's the way days are now.
That's the way days are.
That's the way days are.
Every day. Do you realize I have actually worn more makeup during this period than I usually do when I get to travel around and stuff?
nothing like a camera.
Nothing like a camera to
Segue.
remind you that you just need to, look after yourself a little.
I will. All right. I will.
So what's today's topic? Today's topic is
can't you tell? Look behind
writing
me.
the new script. And you have the script behind you there.
Yeah, and that's kind of, that desk view is kind of how it looks when I try to write my script.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the way everybody's desk looks when they're trying to write a script or a blog post or an article for a magazine or because we can go back and we can rewrite and we can correct. As we're going through life, however, we don't too much get to do that. We can go back and atone for things that we've done, but we don't get to rewrite what happened. It's in the past. It's done. It's over with.
Done. It's gone.
True story.
Out there.
As we go along with our pals, this is who we are, by the way. Patty, Greg, Roy, Simone, left to right, or bottom to top, or top to bottom, depending on what your view is.
Inside out, roundabout.
Inside out and roundabout. Absolutely true. But as in life, it's an ad lib. It's responding in real time. It's things going on in real time and how we respond to them. And that's really what today is about. Go ahead, Greg.
The whole idea of ad lib. I got something. The whole idea of ad lib, a good actor will seamlessly flow in and out of ad lib. And the reason it works, or when it works, is because they have a really strong understanding of their character, who they are, who they aspire to be, which we'll get to in a minute. Mm-hmm. And they understand where the story is going or where they want to move the story. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, ad lib is seamlessly, and it's not uncommon for a good actor to discuss with the creative team of a film to say, my character wouldn't do that or say that. My character that I really deeply understand would say this. Good, go with that. And so I think it's a really good analogy for this exciting adventure of life and what's new ahead of us, is the idea that rather than following a script, rather than follow the script that you thought you were on, or the script that was around us that's now suddenly changed, is our ability to ad lib and be us in the circumstance we find ourselves, I think, is a critical skill.
It is. And in terms of acting, I'll give you a quick example of how this can work. There's a very famous scene in the movie When Harry Met Sally. And it's when Billy Crystal says, "Waiter, there's too much pepper in my paprikash." You say it now, he says to Meg Ryan, who looks at him and tries to say it the way he does it. He says, "No, waiter, there's too much pepper in my paprikash." And at that point, if you watch the movie again, watch what Meg Ryan does. She looks off this way.
Yeah. Are we cutting the scene, or are we going forward with this?
That was not in the movie. Billy Crystal, that was not in the script. Billy Crystal just started down that path. Meg Ryan actually looked over at Rob Reiner, the director, and was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And should we do so? And Rob Reiner went, yeah, go with it.
I kind of feel like that a lot with you guys.
Yeah.
I feel like that Stephen Wright said it best. He says, you know how you are when you're sitting down and you lean back in a chair and you feel like, oh, it's just going to start to fall over. I feel like that all the time.
Yes. GT sitting beside you right there, Roy, his whole life is just one ad lib.
Yes.
It is, though. It's not unlike those memes that you see go by, and what I think success was starts here, and it's a straight line.
Yeah,
and what success really was.
Really is. That's exactly right.
We're ad-libbing as we go.
Well, let's just define the meaning of ad-lib, right?
Yeah, let's
because according to what you may find on Google, it's spoken or performed without previous preparation.
That's my life.
That's what we need this morning.
So that's why I figured we'd really enjoy this. And here's the other thing, because Roy, what's that word again? Where we look for words in their history, etymology, or I always get etymology and entomology mixed up.
Etymology.
Thank you.
If you're thinking entomology, there's a bug in it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean that's also part of the ad-libbing.
Can anybody pronounce endemonology? The thing that we're, kind of, anyway.
I thought what we were doing was ad-libability.
Yes.
Right now. Anyway, so from the early 19th
This is totally not on the script. I don't even know where you guys are this morning.
I do. It's in Trello.
Rob, come on, cut the scene.
So from early 19th century, and it was used as an adverb, it's actually an abbreviation of ad libitum, which comes from the Latin and literally means, and you're so going to like this, Gregory, because we said this was your life, according to pleasure.
Oh, right. Yes.
The ad lib, we will get to where we want to go, which is the happy stuff.
To quote another movie, as you wish.
As you wish. I don't think they exist.
I think there's a fine line between stupid and clever when it comes to ad-libbing.
From the same movie. Well said. There is, and we're not going to decide where that line is on this screen today. Never mind.
I don't know where I'll land, so let's just.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
we know exactly where you're going to land, and
people realize this is the Friday comedy hour, don't they?
Right. It's amateur hour,
It is. But I really want people to stick with this idea of ad-libability, because it really is about our ability to respond to the story as it's changing around us. Because our response is part of what we can rewrite. It's part of what we can control, right?
Yes. So I think sometimes in life, we literally face a circumstance, not unlike this one, but there's lots of them: changes of jobs, layoffs, new corporate directions and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in response, we sit there and we look off camera to Rob and say, Rob, help me out here. This wasn't how it was supposed to work. Yeah. This isn't how this is supposed to work out. I was supposed to work really hard and then release my new product, or I was supposed to study hard and land this position and be really successful, or whatever it is. And the fact of the matter is, a script is more of a guideline than a rule, to make another movie reference, right? There isn't a script. There's just a general direction of where you may want to go, and in your ability to respond in the moment to pursue where you want to be. I think that's kind of the core of it.
You've mentioned something there that I think is really interesting. When you read your favorite book or watch your favorite movie and you think, who would play you in a movie? We won't answer that question now. I'll give you time to think about that one. But if we have, who would you like to be in that movie? Or you see a character and you think, gosh, I would so love if I could do those things or be that way. And Patty, you said something the other day to us that I just thought phenomenal.
It says, it really sucks. It really sucks when somebody else is the person you wish you could be.
No,
exactly. Someone else is already there. So who are you? Who's your character? Who are you going to be in this storyline that's developing or sort of just appeared in front of you?
But Greg's right. It's always unfolding before us. The environment is changing around us. There's and as we start talking about moving toward opening things up in the current situation, we're really looking at a lot of people whose scripts have to change. There are businesses that won't be businesses anymore, that aren't coming back. There will be employees that won't be coming back. There will be lots of changes. And the resilience around that is about the script writing, right? It's where we live in that resilience, that guideline that takes us there, I think. And wanting to be anyone else but who we are is the wrong direction.
You ever noticed how it always seems easier to be somebody other than yourself? It's like, because I look at all of you guys, and you are incredibly successful, smart, intelligent people, and you know that I truly believe that, even though I sound like I'm being sarcastic. You are, and so as I look at you guys, it's like, how could you, with all that going on, how could you possibly struggle? But in here, we got the narrative in the head, we got the fears, the uncertainties of the doubt. And so it's almost the opposite. How could I possibly be successful when I see all of this challenges and brick walls and obstacles that I face? It's so much easier if I were Patty or Simone or even Roy, for that matter. I don't know.
Yeah, but hang on, you got the C-level job that I didn't go for.
I know.
See, this is the thing. Like, when I first started my career, I thought, okay, and seriously had it all mapped out. I knew exactly where I was headed and what I was going to do. And then, heck, other things happened that pulled me, and not necessarily my stuff. Some of it was external. So, but it changed the nature. It changed the narrative.
Yeah.
But it changes you at the same time, right?
Exactly.
How you grow.
And
I had to.
Go ahead, Simone.
Oh, I was going to say, and you have to almost become someone else. But what it is actually part of how you're building your character, all the different tools and techniques, or the things that you draw on as your character develops in the storyline.
So Patty has a recurring motif that I've actually, for the last 4 weeks, I don't know when it actually started, but I've been using that to help me kind of navigate. Thank you, Patty. But here's the thing. She talks about, who do you want to be when you get there? Who are you inside? What is essential about you? So regardless of whether you land that job or don't land that job, or the job didn't pan out the way you want, or your product didn't launch, or everybody thinks you did a terrible job, whatever it is, you get to choose to be who you want to be. And you can stay true to that. When you violate the integrity of who you want to be, that's when you have a problem that's uniquely you. That's all you.
Ooh, I saw a whole Tarantino moment coming just then. When you violate the integrity of who you want to be. What a line.
Yeah. Can somebody write that down? Can somebody write that down? Because that's awesome.
Sorry, I'm just like, whew. Wow, Grigori, that was.
But it's true. As we rewrite our script, no matter what changes around us. And I was talking about unfolding and the stuff that's unfolding around us, but really our guiding light, that guiding star that leads us, is who we want to be. And we've talked about that many, many times.
Yeah.
And that includes happiness, eliminating your inner conflict, better decisions, self-control, how you approach resilience, how you bounce back, what do you tolerate, the vitality and pleasure. And I love when you said that, Simone, when you talked about ad-libability being about my pleasure and my happiness, because who you want to be, when you always keep that as your guiding star, that is what happens as you stay in more of a happiness mode, as opposed to stepping aside from your values or aside from the image of the character you wish to be. It's not about letting it happen to you. You don't just go with the flow, right? You have to paddle, but you get to paddle your way.
I don't know. Sometimes I like getting to go with the flow. I think it depends on the narrative that's happening at the time.
Right.
Actually,
But when circumstances are happening
when
around you,
yeah,
keeping that guiding star ahead of
yeah,
you and really paddling your way. I mean,
yeah,
you're going to be able to get through the rapids that appear, because they always will, you know, that river that widens and we get the great view, and then it narrows and we paddle like hell. Well, that's the one, is you paddle your way and it
yeah.
gets you through better, right? But you
Actually,
still have others that you need to paddle with and work with.
absolutely. Roy, I've got a question for you, because it's a quote, and it says, be the script writer, the director, the movie star, editor, and producer of your life, because each one has an amazing viewpoint to learn from.
That's
You've done
nice.
an awful lot of things, Master Roy.
Mhm.
Our outcome is defined by who we choose,
Mhm.
how we choose to write that story.
And each one of those things that I've done, that and I wanted to get to this, going back to your quote, Patty, there about who you want to be is the sought outcome, right? You always have to keep that in mind.
Mhm.
And that's a different thought from what you want to be. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a fireman. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a scientist. It's a different thought. Who you want to be is different from what you want to be. And a lot of us invest a tremendous amount of our energy and time and effort and our learning in what it is that we do. We have demanding careers, and we need to keep learning all the time, which is one of the reasons we got into this conversation in the first place. We are learners by nature. But it's a different question from what you want to be. And I never had a clear idea of what I wanted to be, but I pretty much knew who I wanted to be. And so no matter what I've done, whether it was digging tunnels under New York City or standing in front of classes or being an academic person or, writing about customer service and customer experience and technical support and learning technology and all of that stuff, I've always kind of been centered on the same me and relating to the things around me the same way. And there's a little bit of the Saint Francis prayer in here, right? The Serenity Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Grant me the serenity to change the things I can, accept the things I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
And that's where writing the script comes in, right in that friction and the tension between accepting the things you can't change and changing the things you can. That's where the script writing takes place, right in that little crux.
And you know what? I want to throw this open to you three. There's a screenwriter called Jim Thompson, and he said there is only one plot. Things are not what they seem.
Always.
It's all a MacGuffin.
It occurs to me how much frustration and friction and tension in one's life it comes from things not being the way that you want them to be. I want this thing to be like this. That's not fair that it's not like that. I worked hard for that. It's not fair that I do something really spectacular and somebody else falls off a log and gets all the accolades. Whatever you find to be unfair or unkind, and I think it kind of boils down to that piece of not recognizing the difference between what you can influence, affect, change, and what you can't.
Yeah.
And I know that many years ago. That I believe that the world should be different, the work world, the environment that I was working in and whatnot. And I worked really hard to change that. And I think I had a measure of success. But the difference between wanting it to be the way it should be versus making it more the way I want it to be, and thereby making it a better opportunity for myself and others for creating opportunities. I think there's a fine line in there, but I think if we spend so much time, hang on just a sec. So one of the images that in life, when you're faced with circumstances, I have the image of shaking your fist at the sky, and after you're done screaming about how unfair and how bad that is, you take a deep breath, and it's exactly the same as it was before you expended all that energy and frustration shaking your fist at the sky, and now you have to deal with whatever's in front of you. And so one of my guiding lights for myself is, are you going to sit there and shake your fist at the sky over things that you can't control? Or are you going to figure out something that you can do?
Well, there was something that comes up about, writing a novel is one thing. That's personal. You can just do that on your own. And yes, you've got an editor to help you with certain things, but you can agree or disagree with what they suggest because this is your book, your characters, and so on. But the thing with writing a script, I think this is really interesting, especially whether it be professional or personal. Paul Schrader said that, you can be a writer. That's pretty easy. But if you're actually a screenwriter, yeah, I know, it's a good laugh, isn't it? But if you're a screenwriter, which is kind of half filmmaking, it's not really an art form as such because they're not complete works of art. They're invitations to others to collaborate on a work of art.
And that's true with music as well.
Yeah,
I can sit down and write a tune, but it isn't complete until someone plays it.
Right. That's right. And I think that's what we're doing right now in that writing the script.
And Roy, I have to add that I knew growing up, I knew these two sisters, and they both played piano. And it was fascinating listening to them because one played the piece perfectly and you were unmoved. The other played the piece and I felt what was meant by the music. I understood the music. Same music.
Yeah. I think there were two things I just heard there. One of them was that it isn't complete until the invite has been accepted. But the second one I heard you say, Greg, is you have the opportunity to change the space you're in. And there's an expression, you can't boil the ocean. And I often have to remind clients when I'm coaching them, you're not the king or queen of the universe. You don't have control. You have to actually let go of that job. Let go. You cannot be the king or queen of the universe.
But I want to be,
but what
Patty.
you do have control of is your own pocket of happiness.
Yeah.
Right. And you can develop the happiness within that pocket. You do have control there in how you reflect to others to invite happiness in. So the happiness and control of what you can do goes hand in hand with the invite.
And we often see that when you take on the role, when we've decided to take on a role that somebody has left, so the new, whatever that job title happens to be. And we've all seen it where sometimes they just want to throw out everything that went before so they can recreate their own version of. Now, I can understand why, but it's interesting that it's like, rip up those chapters. They didn't ever happen. And I'm going to create this brand new world. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work that way. And that's one of the things that I've learned and will speak to professionally is everything, every position, every job, even a consultancy it's happening in a context, a continuum, and much of it you don't know. So like when you drop in as a consultant and say, hey, help us with whatever that thing is you need to be able to understand as quickly as maybe as you're capable of understanding what's gone before. I wrote in my book on change management that you don't get to come in and say all of that doesn't matter that's done before. There is a context, and some words that you use, some processes that you use are even the idea that we're going to be working on this particular thing has meta messages or baggage associated with it. And as a change leader, you have to understand what's associated with it so that you can navigate forward and that you're not making mistakes. And
sometimes you unpack that baggage and there's some cool stuff in there.
Exactly. Because it's not all bad and it probably isn't all good. That's why you're there as the new person or as the change agent or the consultant.
You could see it like walking into one of those bric-a-brac shops, one man's trash is another man's treasure thing. You
Right.
know, when you walk in and you know, this is the fun of actually writing a new script, whether you've gone into a new role or you find yourself in different circumstance. Is, you know, if you go in with that sense of curiosity and, you know, Patty, we've got our guiding star and we kind of know who we're about, but having that little moment of joy in the discovery.
So,
Well,
so I have, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
but the discovery itself is a story that starts every new venture, right?
Yeah.
Seeing that's how you lay out how do I turn to which fork in the road, all of those pieces that are on that adventure.
So here's one of those things that I've been thinking about is like, so our words our listeners right now are listening to us. And some of them are unemployed. Some of them have no source of income. Some of them have been really uprooted by this.
Completely.
People have medical problems. People have loved ones that have been affected by the circumstances. And this has always been the case. And so I feel that there is a feeling in certain people of what you're saying is all well and good. And it's easy to say when you know where your mortgage payment is going to come from, where your health care is going to come from. I'm not in a situation like that. I'm speaking for people that are in different circumstances. It's like, so how do I get to be me and choose my happiness and all of those things you're talking about when my baseline, my very fundamental foundation is missing? How do I do that?
I think the answer to that question is found in Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was I believe it was Auschwitz. I could be wrong about that. I believe it was Auschwitz during World War II, was a prisoner and was horribly treated, saw death all around him every day. And somewhere in the middle of that, he found the center of himself and speaks of great hope coming out of that. And it's good to read Viktor Frankl, Frankl, Frankl. So there are ways to respond to things. Again, going back to that, how do I respond? What do I come back with, or what I come back to? And I just want to talk a little bit about this slide. I used a movie making term since we've been framing things in the sense of movie making. It's the establishing shot. That's when in the movie there's a shot of the outside of a building. Okay.
Yeah. Where am I?
You believe that you're in Los Angeles looking at the town hall. And then what is the arc of the story? This is what we're really talking about today, is where does the story go? And what is the end point of that? Where did we start? Where did we get to? What did we learn along the way? Who are the characters you're working with? And I will tell you, we also referred to writing novels, and I shared an apartment with a gentleman who was a novelist for quite a while. And occasionally in the middle of the night, I would just hear him slam something down in the kitchen, and I'd get up and kind of poke my head around the corner and go, "What's up, Al?" And he would say, "He got off the bus again. He got off the bus." And he was talking about one of his characters, and he was trying to get this guy to go someplace. And every time they got to this one corner, the guy would get off the bus. So he had to change the story because the character kept thinking that he was going to get off the bus. And Alfred only had minimal control over that, which is that I don't understand. I don't understand that process.
Okay, let's not go there. Can we talk about that in a different episode? Because that's an episode in an episode.
Yeah.
I think it is. And there's been a couple of movies, and the names are escaping me. One is about Beatrix Potter.
Brilliant movie.
Yeah. And
brilliant life. Brilliant woman.
Dickens writing A Christmas Carol. I think that's right. But both of those movies, and this is exactly what Roy is saying, they showed in a very visual way, which probably isn't exactly it, but the characters came to life and interacted with the author, the writer, in a way that it's almost like the characters created a life of their own, which I think is exactly the point. Is
you don't have a choice.
Exactly. That character did or didn't do that, or would or wouldn't do that. He got off the bus again. As the writer, I didn't want him to get off the bus. Now I got to change everything because the character got off the bus, right? And I think that's part of the challenge that we're facing here, Roy. And I don't think you're done with the points you're making here.
I was just going to say that you have to recognize the characters that you're working with. You have to decide who are you ad-libbing with. I'm Meg Ryan. That's Billy Crystal. I know that when he goes on an ad-lib tangent, it's going to go somewhere and it's part of the story. So I have to trust him, and I have to trust the director to say, yeah, go with it. Right?
Now you're on with the wording. Yeah. Can we trust the people we're on the journey with? Because that changes our response.
Well, and we talked about this in our last episode about trusting. Can you trust the feedback or the inputs that you're getting from others? Exactly. And I think that's really important.
See first KTLO episode 7.
The outcome is completely tied, though, to your response.
Yes.
So if we remember, if we stop long enough to remember, the event around us is neutral. It's happening. It's not that it's not happening. It's just that it's neutral to your outcome. Your response to it
is what drives that.
To it is what drives the outcome.
And this is why you make a fantastic executive coach. And I mean that in very, very serious. Who wants to be told that it's like those circumstances around you, that's not the story? Who wants to be told, Greg, you're overreacting to that? You're focusing on the noise. You're not focusing on the thing. Who wants to be told this is about you and your response, and you get to choose that, and you're choosing to play the victim, or you're choosing to not take on the thing that you really did? Who wants that? People who want to be successful. That's who wants that.
Yeah.
Because until you take that mantle onto yourself and actually take action on it, you're powerless. You're a victim. You're floating down the river without a paddle.
That's why it's your script.
Exactly.
That's why it's your script, right?
I think there's a level in control. I think there's a level of emotional intelligence in this, because never in the history of telling people to calm down has telling people to calm down ever helped people calm down.
That is so true. Can we just pause right there for a minute? That is so true.
Why do we
stop being hysterical?
Why do we insist on using this phrase? Just calm down. It doesn't work.
There are a couple other words you can insert in that phrase that work better. It's calm.
I see you.
I was being polite.
I know you were being polite.
I see you. I hear
Roy,
you.
Yes, exactly. I see you. I hear you. And you know what? As we've said before, hearing is a physical faculty. Listening is a psychological choice.
Yeah.
Roy, how are we going to get over all of this?
Right. A practitioner's view of what you said, Patty, was acknowledging where somebody else is at. It does more to help them calm down, or you to calm down, than stating that. It's like, wow, this is really upsetting to you. This is something that really bothers you. Let's talk about that. It's very different than, whoa, easy there, fella. I think we can get this under control. That never helped. I think that's pretty good. That's good counsel,
collaborator in the script.
My script has these characters that pop up and come in and they just do weird things, right? I'm like, who wrote this? Who wrote this?
Who put me in this movie? Oh,
that's how this started.
What is the deal?
Yeah.
Roy, please be the sanity. How do we get over this? How do we get over these obstacles?
So how do you get over the obstacles? And you define your own response. That's what this whole episode has talked about, right? You define your own response. You figure the way over the obstacles. And one of the stories I enjoy telling was a friend of mine years ago, Daniel Reed, who's a doctor and was a world-class, top-notch mountaineer. And to give you an idea of how good a mountain climber he was the first person to pioneer a route up the east face of Mount Everest, which was considered previously unclimbable. Nobody ever went up that face before Dan did. But so his wife was visiting Dan's family home in Seattle after they were married, and she had never been there before. And she was out standing in front of the house and looking up at Mount Rainier. And she said to Dan, who had grown up climbing it, right? She said, "What's it like to be up there?" And Dan's response was, "Get your coat." And
Wow.
a couple of hours later, Barbara was leading Dan and 3 other people up Mount Rainier. And Dan was one of those people who, you know, if she got to a point and said, "Well, what do I do now?" He'd say, "What do you think you should do now?" And it would allow you to figure out what you thought the best course of action was, provided guidance along the way. Remember, he's a medical doctor. All right. He just doesn't say, "Oh yeah, give him some medicine," or you figure out what to do. He provided good guidance along the way, but he was just one of those spectacular characters that really helped you develop your own responses and figure your way around or over or under those obstacles.
Yeah.
And I think that some of what defines us as people is the solutions that we find when we meet obstacles and we figure our way around them, respond to them, and overcome them. That's kind of what defines us as individuals to a certain extent anyway.
That's the definition of success, though.
Yeah.
Success isn't some picture of pretty house, pretty car, pretty. Success is what you have overcome, how you overcame it, and that is an achievement in and of itself. And you begin stacking those, and as they stack, you begin building your character. Right?
Well said, Patty.
Well said.
Overcoming beats the setbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, by the way, before we get to our wrap-up time here, absolutely feel free to tweet any of us about some of the topics that we're talking about. If you are not aware of what the heck this is or what's going on, check out the website at KTLOlearn.com. There's some information there. Simone wrote a wonderful article on LinkedIn yesterday. Thank you, Simone, for doing that. Kind of explaining a little bit about what we're doing here. And remember that we don't know what we're doing here. We are living this script writing scenario. We're going along. It's not a presentation. It's not a webinar. It's not any of those things. We've been doing this amongst ourselves for a long time, and we're just putting it out there. And
Conversation.
It's conversation, and we're struggling through a lot of the stuff that's going on around us, just as you are. We're just trying to help each other and maybe help some other people along the way. And that's why we decided to put this up on the what do they call it? The information superhighway. Remember those days?
Interwebs.
The
Yeah.
interwebs.
The
Interwebs.
Inner tubes.
Yeah.
But really, feel free to reach out to any one of us using our handles there. Those are all Twitter handles, and we're all on LinkedIn.
We are all on LinkedIn.
I would love to get some feedback, some input on some of the topics that we're sharing here, because like you said, Roy, I really like the way you put that too. But we're not trying to present the answers here.
No.
We're trying to ask better questions. We're trying to help each other sort through how do we cut through the noise and get to where we're going. And I think in that, part of the reason I keep coming back and hanging out with you guys is I find encouragement in that. I find that if we can kind of push the curtain back and look ahead, it's like there's tremendous opportunity out here. There's tremendous opportunity for all of us in the circumstances we find ourselves and in the circumstances we found ourselves 5, 10, 20 years ago. It comes back to, how do we write a script? How do we act in the moment to move ourselves closer and closer to where we want to be successful in life, in the things we pursue, and in how we interact with other human beings?
Being who we want to be.
Being who we want to be.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
KTLO, keep that learning on.
keep that learning on. Well, I think that brings us full circle for this episode. This was fun. It was enlightening. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. And we hope that the folks out there in YouTube land or Zoom land got something out of it. And we'll see you again next time for episode 9. Wow, we're up to 9. We're going
9
to
episodes.
have 9
I
episodes.
can't believe we've survived 9 weeks.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing, isn't it? So
We've had to put our makeup on 9 full times. On
Times, I
Friday
know.
morning.
is it showing?
I
All right.
especially like yours today, Roy.
And meanwhile, take care, and we'll be in touch, of course, during the week, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.